Gondwana Records podcast.
Hello and welcome to our podcast series with Hania Rani, Polish pianist, composer and singer. In 2019, Hania Rani debuted from Gondwana Records with the instrumental piano album Esja. It was highly acclaimed and quickly made her one of the most important artists in the post-classical music world. My name is Mari and it is my pleasure to sit down with Hania to hear about her musical journey from her upbringing to how she created the latest album, Ghosts. On this episode,
very quickly, of course, after I think maybe first year, I recognized that piano is my thing.
Hania talks about the beginning of her life as a pianist. And
the last day of April 2018, I sent them a mail saying, "Hi, my name is Hania Rani and this is my music."
She recalls the first email she sent to Gondwana Records. So let's begin.
So I come from Poland, which is in Eastern Europe. I will explain it because I think not everyone knows where is it. So it's just between Germany and Belarus, Ukraine. We are actually bordering with many countries. So it's like kind of a Slavic country, and I'm just mentioning it because I think it's becoming more and more important for me, because I'm just realizing how much identity in my music I can also find. Maybe not really in musical part, but maybe in topics that I'm picking or kind of feelings that I'm interested in. And so I was born in Gdańsk, which is a city in the north of Poland, and it's by the sea, which is probably also very important. And also it's Baltic Sea, which is quite cold. It's very moody. It's usually kind of, most of the year except summers, which are very hot. But usually it's like grayish and very atmospheric, and there is something about like local people most of the time go to the beach, to the sea when it's actually bad weather, because then there are no tourists and no people just hanging out there. It's a bit different than Italy or whatever, Mediterranean style. So we are very Scandinavian somehow, I think, and definitely it somehow affected me that I have nothing against bad weather, just wandering on the beach. So my parents are not musicians, but they have a big love for music, and they are very interested in culture in general. Music was always very present in my family house in a very natural way. It was a way of spending time, and especially when I was a little kid, we're singing a lot, and I think both of my parents have a really good hearing, so it was, they were also quite encouraged to sing, to maybe play instruments. And my father, he can play a couple of instruments. He doesn't know any music, but he basically can do things. And he loves to listen to records. And I also remember they were always taking me for concerts. I was 5 years old when my father took me for Tina Turner concert, because it was a stadium concert, because he thought it's really important for me. She died recently, so I just recall this memory. It's very funny. So they were taking me to opera house, all of this stuff, which probably is not very usual for most of the kids, I would say. Maybe now it's starting, but back then in 90s, I think it was, especially in Poland, just after communist time, it was not maybe so common. There was a piano at my grandmother's house. It was totally out of tune, but it was always there. So when we were visiting, I was always tiny bit trying out it. And at some point I think there was so much music going on, also in my kindergarten and stuff like this, that my parents decided to take me to the music school, because in Poland we still have very specific music education. There are still existing, I think it's very Eastern European, common also in Russia or maybe Ukraine. We have like these professional music schools. And I think in Western countries, you don't have them anymore. You need to take like afternoon classes or something like extra. And in Poland, we still have like this, in the bigger cities, you can go to the school that is like from the very beginning, when you are 6 or 7, like this professional training, and you have mixed subjects. So you have I don't know, language classes, math classes, but then piano classes and choir and hearing improvement. And so from the very beginning, you're trained to be a musician and you need to pass the exams. So I was 6 years old and somehow, I passed the exams. And my mom picked piano for me, because you need to pick an instrument. You can pick just very simple instruments like cello, violin, piano and guitar, I think, because kids are small, so they don't have enough power for woodwinds or brass instruments. And my mom picked piano because she, when she was a kid, she played violin and she really didn't like it. And also I think she really didn't want to have like this kid playing violin at home. The starts to play violin are very difficult, so I think she picked for herself a bit. I was a bit disappointed because I thought violin are so cool and you can just have this special case and it's object, it's very nice. But very quickly, of course, after I think maybe first year, I recognized that piano is my thing. So I went to this school and my parents thought it probably will last just maybe 6 first years, like primary school, and then I will go to regular high school and maybe follow their paths, because my father is an architect and my mom is a doctor. But I somehow liked it so much that I said, no, I want to stay. And I was practicing on my own. I've become really ambitious and very crazy, a bit crazy about piano, and I wanted to become, a classical pianist and just attend the Chopin piano competition, all of these. And then it was very easy for me to choose, university. I just, I decided to follow and continue my education, and first it was Warsaw and then it was Berlin. So altogether I was studying classical music for 20 years.
Wow, you never really thought that I don't want to do this, or I want to be maybe interior designer or architect? You didn't have any of that?
No, and it was now from a perspective, I think it was such an easy life, because I was so decided and I had like very kind of easy dreams. I really know where I want to go, and also it was a very good environment, because all of my friends had similar dreams, or maybe half of the people, because some of the people of course quit the school at some point. They wanted to become somebody else. They didn't want to make music, but like my very close circle had the same dreams, were supportive, we're just going to competitions, we were very quickly giving concerts as well. It was a very, very different childhood, definitely, and a very different environment, but it was also very easy. I was not overthinking, oh, maybe this or this. I had a very easy dreams, which probably helped me just to be focused.
When you're studying classical music, what kind of music were you listening?
And this is maybe what made me afterward change my mind a bit, because I was always listening to all kind of music. Also thanks to my parents, especially I would say my father, and he loved Pink Floyd a lot, and Cat Stevens, Rod Stewart as well, the Beatles, like of course any other music. But I am thinking about actually something that made me think about songwriting as well, and like thinking about music in a bit like songwriting way, which is so different to classical music. So I was continuing basically this kind of my parents' passions, and I think, it's very common as well that nowadays kids, even in these very professional schools or universities, they are interested in many things. So also like my hometown where I started my education is a kind of famous hub for jazz music. Gdańsk used to be kind of a base for many interesting musicians. There was like a really nice environment, and I remember when I was like in high school, even earlier, we were going to listen to our favorite musicians just during jam sessions. So we had a lot of opportunities to surround each other with many different kind of music. And then when I also started university, I moved to capital city, Warsaw, and it's like a bit like London. There is so many different genres intertwining, people coming just to make their dream come true. And there is kind of if you want to do any kind of music like pop, electronic in Poland, you go there is a big kind of scene. So very naturally I was starting to meet all of these other people, especially like hip-hop producers or pop singers, and I was so curious about it that I always was saying yes. If they ask me, oh, maybe you do arrangements, like string arrangements for this piece, or maybe you teach me a bit of piano, or maybe you show me some different harmonies. I was always, I was just curious because it was so tempting, this other kind of environment.
Gondwana Records podcast.
And then you go outside of Poland and you went to Berlin. That is to go to the school.
Yes, exactly. I decided it's also very common to do because Germany, Switzerland, I would say they have such a high, also UK obviously, they have such a high level of music education. I would say Germany especially, they have like also many orchestras and many possibilities, great professors, and still education is for free in university, which is also important. Then I decided to go to Berlin. At this time, which is maybe interesting for somebody, but I was really crazy about opera, performing with singers, so like performing song cycles. There is a huge repertoire of this kind of genre, and it's very interesting, I think, job for a pianist, because as a pianist you can become a soloist, you can play in a chamber group, or you can also just maybe perform with a singer. So there are not so many opportunities, and at some point I think you need to find your specializations. And of course, to become a solo pianist you need to be a prodigy or since you are 5 or 7, and it's a very difficult job to do, to be kind of this leader or whatever. And so I thought, I'd be really good maybe in this, and I was quite crazy about it. And in Berlin there are 2 really famous professors, and I was still studying just solo piano. I was never really studying this. It's called Liedbegleitung, which means in English song following, song accompaniment, something like this, and where you study also songs and literature and poetry. It's very interesting. But I chose this university, Hans Eiser Musikhochschule in Berlin, because I also had opportunity there to had some classes with one of these professors. Wolfram Rieger is his name. And in Berlin everything changed for me in a very subtle way, actually. First of all, I had to take some German classes because it was, my main professor also was speaking German, and basically you had to use German. And I just said the same desk with an Icelandic girl. And it was like love and friendship from the very first moment. And this friendship was extremely important for me. She's opera singer, and we are still friends. But very, like all Icelandic community, they are very open-minded about music, especially even if they are classical musicians. They are always like, they are always like doing so many different things because they come from such a little country, and everything is mixing there. It's a very different approach. People are basically doing many different things because there are not enough people to do them. So she very quickly we started to work together because she was singer, so it was a perfect situation because she was looking for a pianist and I was looking for a singer. We started to work together, and very quickly she said, why don't you come to Iceland? We organize a concert there. And I was always like doing some stuff for myself, I never thought I would be performing my own music or be releasing it. So I was always like just doing some arrangements, and I prepared arrangements of John Dowland, which he is a Renaissance English composer. I prepared arrangements of his songs for a contemporary ensemble and singers, and she loved the arrangement so much that she said, let's do it there, let's just organize a concert. It was so easy for her, and I was of course like very spontaneous. I think that was a common thing in between us, and we went there and we organized this concert in Reykjavik. And also it was the first time maybe that I because there was a little bit too little music to feel the full concert, so I already also performed a couple of my songs there. One of them was Esja and the title also come from this time, from my very first trip to Reykjavik, and seeing for the first time the mountain, which is visible from every corner of the city. It's a bit like Fuji but maybe, and sometimes you also cannot see it because of the cloudy weather, but I asked her what is the name of this mountain, and she said Esja, and I loved the sound of the word, and this is the title of one of my very first pieces that I composed for piano solo. Afterwards, we were coming back to Iceland, we were doing projects together. She made me meet with some very important people for my career that basically offered me just come again and we record your album there. And I'm thinking about Bergur Porison, who is like a sound engineer of Björk and a very good friend of Alfheder, and he at some point he said, yeah, just come over and I can help you. And so thanks to this, one friendship, On the other hand, of course, Berlin is such an amazing place for music, especially electronic music and techno, and just I think amazing place as well to realize that people can be themselves. They can be free, they can do whatever they're interested, they can be very normal, they can be very casual, they can be extremely also bohemian or artistic and weird. And that was for me coming from Warsaw, which is still a big city and very developed, but it was a shock. And I was this girl who was like practicing a lot, and I was very much very concentrated and perfectionist, and never thought that actually I can also compose myself, because I was never studying it. So Berlin basically opened me also like as a human being to think about different kind of things that I can do, that I don't need to actually really stay and perform classical music, which was very stressful as well for me. I was very frustrated. I was very like fighting, I was putting a lot of attention to it, but it was so stressful as well that it was not paying back. I was feeling, I need to do a lot in order to perform, and it was I was a bit a very different person. And then this decision to move and live in Berlin and to meet different community, to be also involved in very different projects, very artistic projects, also including performing music in a techno clubs or like, you know, just theater community or people from all around the world. Definitely something clicked, and that was life-changing moment, definitely.
You flourish.
Yeah, and I allowed myself to be myself, because I understood that, you know, I just a little bit forgot about my roots, about my childhood, about being careless and like just being happy to make music and just sing your, you know, lungs out. And I was a little bit back to what I love and the music that really moves me. And maybe it's not so, it's still intellectual, but on a different level. It's also very emotional. There is a lot of like primal things that I also admire about it. And yeah, so I mean, it's probably whoever listens to my music, he thinks, oh, there is so much connection with classical music, and my music is so subtle, and my music it's not a huge scream of rebellion. But for me, it, you know, from coming from this very, very exclusive and very hermetic world and just making a step, for me it was a huge act of rebellion.
You meeting Gondwana Records or Gondwana Records meeting you? How did this happen?
I sent a demo to Gondwana. I just sent them a mail, and somebody asked me, what did you write there? And I actually, of course, forgot, because you are forgetting this kind of things. But thanks to mails and thanks to internet, nothing's really disappearing, so it's really easy to find it. And I just really, I think it was the last day of April 2018, I sent them a mail saying, hi, my name is Hania Rani. And this is my music. And I sent them 2 albums. One was a solo piano album, and the other one was like home album, which is my second album, still kind of in a developing stage. But yeah, I just sent them 2 albums, and I think 2 days afterwards, and I think it was like maybe 2nd of May or 3rd of May, maybe it's even a bank holiday or something, which is also needs to be, say loud that they answered me so quickly. And they say, yeah, it's really great. We love it. Just when can you come over to London? And I was, I was really fearless back then. And I said, yeah, immediately. I booked my flight and I just came to London, and we met with Matthew Halsall at Barbican. But then I think we went to Tate Modern, and there was an exhibition about Picasso, 1963, about this year in his career. I really remember it, and I was so overwhelmed because I went with Matthew Halsall to see the exhibition. You can just imagine.
So you sent them an email approaching, but how did you know about the label?
Another funny story. I was a big fan of, since years, I think since 2009 maybe, of Portico Quartet, which I found also by coincidence on YouTube. And I was following them. I even went to their concert in Warsaw in 2013 or 14, when, many years ago, and we have even a fun, like a fun picture afterwards, like me as a fan with them, which is a funny thing. And so it was a 10th anniversary concert in Roundhouse in London, happening 2018, and I have seen the lineup, which was Matthew Halsall, also my big love, and Portico Quartet, and I think Mammal Hands and somebody else, like a big event in Roundhouse. And I was not somehow really aware that all of these artists are connected with one label, and that's how I found out that it's Gondwana. And I thought, it must be amazing label if they have so many amazing artists, and that's why, yeah. And it's, to be honest, it was also, I think, my first mail with a demo and my only one.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, I was very lucky, but at some point maybe it was meant to be. I was just basically thinking just about this one.
Gondwana Records podcast.
Coming up next in episode 6, Hania shares her love of being on the stage as well as the difference between creating her own music and producing commissioned works. And we have a Q&A session. Hania will answer questions from her fans and Gondwana Records supporters. Thank you for listening and see you on the other side.